Hi friends, so today I wanted to talk about something that I've mentioned a few times, I think. I wanted to talk about au pairing. I just realized my seatbelt's still on, because I was just driving and I'm parked. So I'm just gonna go ahead and unbuckle. I think I've mentioned a few times, after I graduated high school, 6 days after I graduated high school specifically, I left to go to Germany to be an au pair. If you don't know what an au pair is, it's basically indentured servitude in hindsight. But the bare bones of it are you go and they provide you housing and room and board, and in exchange for that, you take care of their kids for a certain amount of time a week. You're a nanny, basically, like a live-in nanny. For that certain amount of money, it's usually pocket change. Like, it's really not much. But it's supposed to be a cultural experience, and it's not a money-making opportunity. It's just a way to live in a different country where you're not losing money. It turns out it doesn't usually go as well as you would expect. So 6 days after I graduated high school, I hopped on a plane and went to Germany. I had Skyped with the family a whole bunch of times. They had a little baby girl. She was super cute. The husband was actually from Massachusetts, about an hour from where I am in Massachusetts. And they both seemed so cool, and like the dad worked in IT and the mom was a doctor, and the baby is adorable, and I was so excited. And they were in Bavaria, so like near Munich. I'm not going to say where, just because that kind of makes me feel weird. It seemed perfect. Like, I really thought it was going to be great. Like, my parents had Skyped with them and thought they seemed cool. I mean, I'd Skyped with their parents, like the baby's grandparents. Everything seemed perfect. Like, we had a whole deal worked out. So I go, and for the first 2 weeks, it's a dream. Like, I said to them when I got there, like, so what's the plan? What do you need me to do, like, for work and stuff? And they were like, oh, these first 2 weeks we're on vacation, so you're on vacation. Don't worry about anything. And anyway, so I kept asking them, like, what can I do to help? Like, what do you need? What do you need? What can I do for you? And they were like, nothing. You're on vacation. Like, the first weekend I was there, they asked me, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to go into Munich? And I was like, oh, well, I've been before, but I'd like to go again. Yeah, sure. And they were like, oh, well, if you've already been, let's go and do something else. And I was like, all right, well, what can we do? Like, what's nearby? And they were like, oh, Prague, like, in the Czech Republic, is only 3-hour drive away. Why don't we go to the Czech Republic? And I was like, oh, okay, sounds like a plan to me. So, I mean, the first weekend I was there, they rented this beautiful apartment for the weekend, and all of us went, all 4 of us, baby and everything, went to Prague. Like, I was drinking with them, and obviously responsibly, because there was a baby around. Like, we weren't getting turned or anything, but they were buying me food and drinks, and it was awesome. Like, it was awesome, and I never had any shred of doubt that they were going to be the perfect family for me to work for. And the next week went by, and I was supposed to start taking care of the baby the second Monday I was there, 2 weeks after I got there, basically, because they were both going to be going to work. Like, they were going to be off vacation. And for, like, a day or two beforehand, they seemed kind of grumpy, but I was like, oh, maybe they're just stressed because it's the end of their vacation. That Sunday, they went out to their friends about an hour away, and I was like, oh, I'll stay here, and I'm going to go into the city and get registered for my German classes and work out everything I need to work out. They were like, yeah, of course. So they come back at, like, 9 o'clock. I'm just sitting at the table. I think I was having a snack or eating dinner or something, just playing on my phone. And they sit down, and they look all, like, solemn and stuff, and I was like, is something wrong? Like, am I in trouble? The husband says, yeah, you are. And I'm just sitting there like, oh, all right, why am I in trouble? And he's like, I don't know, you tell me. And I'm like, I really don't know. Like, and he's like, well, you were supposed to bring in your paperwork for your visa. Let me backtrack for a second here. Me and the wife had gone to the appropriate government office, basically, to get me all registered for my visa, and we were missing part of the paperwork. We needed a biometric picture of me, which is basically just a passport photo. There's like it has to be straight on, and there's certain proportions, whatever. So she was like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll go back. And like, I took German in school, but I'm not fluent. Like, imagine being in a foreign country and having to navigate like a bureaucratic process akin to the DMV, but instead of your car, it like determines whether or not you get to stay in the country. That's what I'm working with here. And he says, well, you were supposed to bring that paperwork back after you got the picture. And I was like, I thought we were going to be going because I don't know German. Like, I do not know enough German to navigate that whole process. And he was like, well, when do you think we're going to go back if we're both out and we both start work full time? And I'm like, I don't know. I'll bring it tomorrow. Like, tomorrow was supposed to be my last day before I was taking care of the baby. Like, I'll bring it tomorrow. I'll get everything sorted out. I was going into town anyway to register for my German classes. And they were like, you know, if you can't even take initiative and fill out this paperwork, how are we supposed to trust you to take care of our baby? And I automatically, like, when they said that, I was already nervous. But when they said that, I had a sinking feeling like, oh my God, this is my worst nightmare. I'd read a bunch of stuff online. A lot of people have been au pairs, and they love it. And I read a lot of horror stories too. At that point, I knew that pretty much worst case scenario was starting. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I mean, I like kids. I want to take care of her. Like, I'm sorry that this is such a big issue for you. I never meant it to be. I guess I just kind of misunderstood. And something got a little lost in translation for me. And they said to me, we don't feel comfortable with you taking care of the baby. You haven't done anything with her. And I'd fed her a couple of times and I think changed her once. But they kept telling me every time I tried to help, oh, relax, you're on vacation. And I'm like, you told me for the past 2 weeks that I was on vacation. I'm not a mind reader. How am I supposed to know what you wanted from me? And they basically said to me, you're done. And we had a whole contract written up that said if either of us, like if I quit or if they fired me, I was supposed to have 2 weeks notice or give them 2 weeks notice. So I said, okay, so what do you need? When do I need to be out of here? And at this point, I'm in hysterics. Like, I'm sobbing, and it's a disaster at this point. And they said to me, you need to be out by Tuesday, but if you want to ride anywhere, you need to leave Monday. This is Sunday night at around probably 9:30 at this point. And I didn't have money to get home, which is stupid because I had money from graduation, but I had spent it fairly recklessly. So that's a little bit my fault, but I didn't have money to get home. My parents were mad that I had spent the money recklessly, and I figured they wouldn't leave me homeless in a different country, but I knew if I had to come home, it wasn't going to be pretty. So I called my mom, and I said, look, I don't know what to do. And she said, well, here are your options. Find another family or come home. And I was like, all right. So I wiped my tears and got down to business. I went in my room, and I sat there and I spent all night applying to do families in Germany. And lo and behold, next morning I got an email from somebody who was in Munich about an hour away. So what I did was I told the host dad, look, I need a ride to the airport. And he's like, fine. So he brings me to the airport. I got a hotel room with some of the money I had at the airport. So if I needed to go home, I'd be home. But I could get back and forth to Munich from the airport easily because I was at the Munich airport. And there's a train right into Munich Center. I met this new family that I had been in contact with in Munich, and she brought me to the house, and I met the kids, and it was fine. Like, it seemed fine. I didn't connect with them immediately like I thought I did the other family, but clearly I didn't connect with the other family as much as I thought I did. It was weird, too, because she brought me there, and she was like, oh, so why don't you clean up a little and, like, cook dinner? And it was weird, like, it was like a trial run, like, I was meeting these people, and she was like, oh, clean my house and cook for my family, and I was like, okay, because at this point I was just like, I'm a little bit homeless in a foreign country, which is something that I'd like to avoid, and she was like, okay, so I'll bring you back to the hotel, and you can stay there for the night, I'll pick you up tomorrow morning, and then you can start. And I thought, great, perfect. So she brings me back to the hotel, I tell my mom and my dad everything that's going on. I give them my new address. I just tell them that everything has been a complete and utter fucking shit show in the past 24 hours. The new host mom picks me up the next morning, and I go there, and pretty much from the beginning, she didn't pay me what we'd agreed to. I worked for these people from 6:45 in the morning, keeping in mind that I had to leave at, I think it was 5:15 to get there on time, because I was going on public transportation, or my bike, but if it was rainy or cold, then too bad. So I was taking care of these kids from 6:45 in the morning until they went to bed at night, 5 or 6 days a week. I'd agreed to work 30 hours, and I basically was working 60. And the way that she had it worked out in her head that I wasn't working 60 hours was that she'd have me work in the morning when the kids got there, and then I'd clean the house for a few hours, and then she'd give me like an hour or two off in the middle of the day, and I'd take a nap because I was exhausted because I wasn't sleeping, and then I would have to clean the house more, and then pick up the kids, and then bring them home and feed them dinner. And the 4-year-old was a nightmare at first. She eventually warmed up to me, and she was a cute kid. I'll make a separate video about that because she's her own video. That she's the kind of kid that warrants her own video. And there was an 8-year-old girl, and I loved her. She was sweet from the beginning. A little bratty, but a good kid. Kids weren't the problem. The parents were the problem in this whole experience. It wasn't a me problem. I ended up leaving early because I told them, look, if I'm working this much, you need to pay me overtime. Like, you're not even giving me food. Like, I would make food for them and make extras so I could take the leftovers, and she would make me leave the leftovers and then throw them away. I was like, look, this is awful. Like, this isn't fair. This isn't what I agreed to. Like, this isn't what I wanted out of this experience. One of my best friends, who is still my best friend now, left a week after I did because her host family wasn't paying her and wasn't feeding her and was treating her like crap. Like, they said to her, you have to work 8 days for what amounts to about 75 cents euro an hour, if you're counting the fact that she's sleeping over with their babies, or we're gonna stop paying your rent. Like, that is the kind of thing that we were facing. And it's not all doom and gloom. Like, I had an awesome time in Germany. I'll make another video about my shenanigans. Like, I met amazing people. There was a group of 4 of us that were friends. 2 Irish kids and another friend of mine who lives in North Carolina. And it was awesome. Like, we had an amazing time, and I did amazing stuff. And I mean, I went to Austria and the Czech Republic. I saw stuff that I'd never seen before. I got better at German. It was great. Like, I really loved Germany, and I loved the experience. But being an au pair is a raw deal. And it's kind of a way for people to extort unassuming young foreign girls. It could have been worse, but it could have been a lot better too. Just as a heads up to anybody that wants to be an au pair, think long and hard about it. I'm not saying don't do it, but really make sure you know your family. And even if you do, there's no guarantee, because I thought my first family was going to be all happy horseshit, and it wasn't. So go into this with a backup plan and a way to get home, because it's really scary to be stuck in a different country with nowhere to be and 24 hours to figure out what your situation is. Alright, bye. Check out those boots though, bae.